Oopsie!
Hi everyone, welcome back to my channel La Fraise. This week I'm going to make a swimsuit with you guys and I'm going to show you how I make it, and hopefully if you are making the Sandpiper or maybe another swimsuit, you can come along and feel supported and seeing the steps, and hopefully that's going to help you make your own swimsuit. And important note, this is not an official sew along, so I'm not working with Helen on this. It's just me trying to give you a little bit of help if you want to make your own swimsuit, but nothing official here. It's my own way of explaining it. So did I introduce myself? Thank you so much for clicking on the video. I'm Noémie, my channel is La Fraise. I'm a student in costume making here in Brussels and I'm super happy to have you here. When I made my first swimsuit, I was feeling quite intimidated. I was very intimidated by lycra and by elastic, and I felt like it would be such a mammoth task, and in the end it wasn't so bad, and I really want to show you how I do it and show you how it's done and hopefully give you the little nudge you need to feel confident that you can also make a swimsuit. In this case, I'm making the swimsuit for a friend, but I always like to remind everyone that if you do not own commercial rights to a pattern, you should not make a commercial profit when you make the pattern for someone else, which is why I make those things only for friends and I don't make a ton for everyone else, because I do it for free. And you should too, except if you own commercial rights. You need to have agreement from the pattern designers to do that. Now that the little public service announcement is made, I have a whole bunch of notes here, so I'm looking at my computer just to make sure I have all of the notes. First, I am not going to use swimsuit lining for this swimsuit, and there are two reasons. First, the lining I have procured here in Belgium in the past has been really poorly made and I have been so upset. Basically, I made a super nice swimsuit I'm super happy about, and then I wore it twice and the lining is ripped everywhere. Literally, like, it's ripped at the seam, it's so bad quality, and it's been really upsetting to have made myself a nice suit that's now coming apart. I prefer in the end using a neutral lycra. In the end, in this example here, it's not a neutral lycra, you'll see it's quite a crazy one, but normally what I would do is have kind of my fashion fabric on the outside and use also fashion fabric on the inside, but often I use a beige one or a neutral color, something a little bit cheaper in the lycra section as well for the inside. So that's my first info, that I'm not using proper swimsuit lining, and in this case it's because I also want to make my swimsuit reversible. I've thought a lot about how to finish the seam to create a reversible swimsuit. I have looked at the video from Pattern Scout, who was actually putting the elastic sandwich between the lining and the main fabric, and I was considering doing it like this, but she didn't like the finish on that, and I was also not convinced that it would work. So after watching her making the swimsuit, I decided I would follow the original instructions from Helen's Closet, but that I will make this swimsuit so incredibly neat that it's going to be wearable inside out. That's my plan, and I'll show you really with close-ups which steps I'm being extremely careful with to make sure that I have this polish finished and that it is wearable inside out. And I can already spoil this for you because I have made the swimsuit. It is beautifully finished, it works inside out. Obviously you have this effect that you can see the main fabric on the wrong side. I'll show you, you'll see how it looks. So it might be a look you don't like, but I personally think it works both ways perfectly and I'm really, really happy with it. So before we start the video, if you want to sew along with me, cut all the pieces you need. I personally use a jersey needle. Honestly, any stretch needle will work. I use jersey needle because that's what I have. I have tested that and it has always worked perfectly fine for me. I have done quite a few leotard and swimsuits by now and it's always worked fine. So jersey needles for me works fine, but any other stretch needle is going to work as well. And for the thread, you can also use specialized thread, but I personally used my normal polyester thread and I've also never had any issues with that. But I know that there are specialized thread. Maybe you want to go and test that and maybe it's going to give a super nice result. I just want to say I haven't used anything special here. I kind of like to try to keep my material as minimal as possible, so my normal needles, my normal thread, and it worked fine. So the friend I'm making this swimsuit for is very, very hourglass, and I'm talking 2 sizes different between her waist and her hips. And what I have done is I have graded 1 size down to the waist, but I did not want to grade 2 sizes because she still has to be able to step in it, and it's the same for her chest. There's also 2 sizes difference between her chest and her underbust. So same thing, I have graded down 1 size but not more because I wanted to make sure that it can go over and that it wouldn't be too tight. But I will show you, I actually have a little trick to create a bit of ruching and to bring the last few centimeters in at the waist and under the bust. So if you are very hourglass shape, this little trick is going to be useful for you. It has worked a treat on her, so I'm very pleased of how this works. So I hope you enjoy this sew along and I'll see you back at the end. So let's get properly sewing. So we are going to take the front and back of the top and sew them at the seams, at the shoulders, and then same for the lining, and then for the bottoms also sew them at the crotch and then at the side seams, and then same for the lining. So basically it's already going to look like a swimsuit by the time we finish this. All of the side seams and either the shoulders or the crotch with a narrow zigzag stitch. I have mine set on 2. Right side against right side, same for the lining. I know that the pattern says press. I personally don't press swimsuits, so I just, when I'm gonna combine them, make sure that the seam allowance don't go on top of one another. The front and back can be a little bit difficult to tell on Lycra, but don't hesitate to get really close and personal with your fabric to see which one is the right side and which one is the wrong side. Okay, it looks very different here because the light catches differently, but in some lights it looks very similar. But you prefer spending an extra 2 minutes finding out which one is the right side and the wrong side than ending up with mistakes in the way you've sewn it. The seam allowance is at 3/8 of an inch, 1 centimeter. And the way I achieve that, considering that there's a zigzag going, is that I kind of go just a little bit inside of that 1 centimeter mark. And this way I know that when the zigzag goes a little bit over, then it brings us to 1. On Lycra, no pins, because Lycra really doesn't like pins. Use clips is going to be perfectly fine for this project. So once everything has been assembled, you're going to have this with the right side facing you and this with the wrong side facing you. So this is the lining for me, by the way. The blue is the main fabric and this is the lining. Just now, before you attach everything together, is a good moment to have a little fit check. Afterwards, it's all going to be combined, so it's going to be a lot more difficult to adapt anything if you need to. So be gentle, because none of the edges are finished, so gently, but you can have a little look and see how it feels. I personally find that with the elastics, it transforms the garment so much that maybe it's going to be hard to properly judge if it's fine or not, but you can maybe already have a first feel at how it is. You are going to switch your stitch length to 3.5. And basically we are going to take this, slide it in here, and we are going to baste everything together. So once this is inside here, we are going to baste the 2 layers of fabric together here, here, at the bottom here, and for the bottom layer the same, we'll slide it in and we do the 2 leg opening and the body opening here. We baste everything together so that the fabric and the lining really become one piece. And I will show you, I think it's going to be clearer if you're confused now. I will show you what the pieces look like as soon as they have been basted together. While you are doing this, you want to make sure that you stay within the seam allowance and also that you do not stretch your fabric. Because I will want this to be potentially reversible, I'm making sure that if there's any misalignment here, that it's the blue fabric that you can see a little bit better, because I don't want any of the lining to show over the elastic case once it's folded over. That is one of the things I'm being careful about. I'm being more, slightly, you can see, slightly over the edge with the blue than risking having the lining poking over. And I will try to show you later on why I think it's important. I've made sure that the seam allowance of the lining is going towards the front and the seam allowance of the main fabric goes towards the back. This way they are never overlapping and creating too much bulk, and by having every time the same lining towards the front, main fabric towards the back, it's very consistent. It can be the other way around, it can change at every seam if you want, but I think that having one clear guide that you follow out throughout makes a lot of sense. So it looks a bit like this at this point. So you basically can see the shape of your swimsuit. Everything is just basted together, and now we're going to put the elastics very neatly over all of this. And so yeah, you can see that basically this is one piece now. Everything has been attached together, and so it works as one piece. And you've done it fine if you have the finished seam on this side and the finished seam also in the lining. Do you have a top and a bottom If so, well done. And now we're going to go to the elastic. So all the elastic lengths obviously are in the pattern, and we're just going to attach the ends like this. So now you have a loop, make sure it's not twisted before you attach it. And we are going to attach it. So here I have a leg opening. We're going to attach it like this. I like to keep this bit somewhere where it's not going to be too annoying. So I generally put it kind of near the seam, not on the seam, to not create extra bulk, but near the seam. Elastic is really muscle memory. The first time it's a bit much, but honestly it gets so much easier the more you do it. And basically you want to leave just a couple of millimeters like this, so that when we fold it over, the elastic doesn't peek out. If I sewed my elastic like this, so you know, instead of here, I'm bringing it a bit and it peeks out like this, then when we fold it over, we can see it. First, that's not very comfortable because that's a rubber elastic safe for swimsuit. But then also it would mean my friend here could not wear it inside out like I want her to be able to. So to be able to have a super neat finish, make sure you are a few millimeters under like this. And when you fold it, it's going to look very, very neat like this. The first line of stitches, you're going to try to do basically on the top edge of the elastic here. It's fine if you go a bit below. Honestly, like this is the one you don't need to sweat too much about, but most towards the edge here. And then afterwards, when we're gonna fold it, we're going to go really on the edge and catch. And because I want my swimsuit to be reversible, I'm going to really take my time to make this extremely neat. The only thing you need to do is to measure the middle of your elastic. I do everything with pins, but you could obviously do it also with a marker. So I do it like this, I do it with clips. I measure the middle, and then I measure the quarter, and I put clips here. And then afterwards, you can do the same, measuring quarter like this of the swimsuit, attach it, and then go ahead and sew it and kind of stretch the elastic lightly between the two pins you have. If you feel quite stressed, use 8, use 16, just use more and more clips as you need. Honestly, I find that the fewer clips there are for me, the better it is, because I can see the tension between the two clips I have and I manage fine, but that is experience. So if this is your first swimsuit, I would recommend maybe a few extra clips than not enough. Don't forget that you can make anything, including swimwear, with elastic. You can definitely do this. This is my cheerleader moment for you. You can do this. This is probably the scary moment of the swimsuit, but it's going to be fine and you're going to be proud of yourself very soon. And normally you have something that's going to look a bit like this. So if at this point you're freaking out, do not worry. If it looks like this, you are all good. As you can see, it has been sewn near the edge of the elastic with a little bit of extra millimeters on the fabric. Obviously, the elastic is doing its elastic job. It looks bad right now. It's normal. When we are going to fold it over like this, we are going to make sure it's smooth so that you don't have extra fold at the moment you fold it. So you're going to put a few pins, make sure you fold it like this, and then you're going to sew on the edge here, just catching the other side here as well. So basically think all of your zigzag on this and then just the one stitch on that side. And this is going to give you that very, very neat finish. So take your time, because this is really what you're going to see in the end. What I also recommend is to kind of fold and push the elastic a bit. I'm going to do it very badly just so you see, but if you fold it like this, you're going to have all of this bunching here. And obviously you're never going to have so much, but you could have a little bit of bunching like this if you're not careful. So push the elastic so that you can really feel like it's hugging the side, and then make it a bit taut so that it's like this. So be careful for the bunching here. So in this case, slow and steady definitely wins the race. It's by making everything nice and smooth that you're going to have a very neat finish. And this is really the final stitches that are going to be visible on the outside, on the inside. So make it nice, take your time. And as I said, try not to have too much extra fabric on the top here. Retighten it a few times to make sure it's fine. And you're good to go. and this is where we are. This now looks really nice, and as you can see, even on the inside, it's quite polished. It's a very nice border of blue. I'm very happy. I hope you are happy with your project as well. So now that it's done, we're going to grab our top and we're going to do the same with the neckband and the armbands. So first on the inside and then fold over exactly the same, do the quarter, put as many clips as you need, etc. We're at the ugly stage where all the elastic is ugly. Now we're going to fold it over like so and sew it pretty. Let's just do it quick. Well, isn't that nice? Wasn't that quick? Sorry. Bad joke, bad joke. I know it took a bit of time, but normally by now you have something quite nice like this. And inside out, you know, I believe in this vision of this being reversible. I really do. So very happy with this. Let's move on to the next step. So normally now you have all the small elastics around your leg opening, arm opening, and neck opening done. If you're making the version that just has an elastic here, you're just going to use the same to finish the elastic of the waistband. In my case, I have a whole separate waistband. So I'm going to pretty much sew the two short ends here to shut the two loops. And to do that, we are going to swap back to a 2. The 2 loops are shut. Before anything else, change this back to 3.5. This way you don't forget. Gonna talk honesty here and explain the plan a little bit. I'm veering away from the instruction. We are supposed to open the seam. I never open seams when it's a zigzag stitch because I find that the stitches just take too much space. The seam is raised because it's a few millimeters wide, so I always prefer just folding it on one side and I don't mind the bulk. Sometimes I kind of do a little twist and I try in the middle to have the seam going one side and then the other. I don't think I'll ever been bothered with that, to be honest. So that's a bit of transparency here. Now, other transparency, normally you're supposed to baste this shut like this. So you're going to baste the open edge here. You know, you have the 2 pieces here and you're going to baste that shut. This way it becomes nice and secure when you sew it onto your swimsuit. I normally would never be bothered basting this. I would just, because I'm confident, place it on my swimsuit and sew it. However, because here I do want it to be very neat and to be able to be worn inside out, I will actually baste it, but if it was a swimsuit that I would not wear inside out, I probably wouldn't be bothered. But obviously, I don't want to make a rebel out of you, I'm just saying how I would do it. Now, I am going to do a little modification because I do want to add an elastic in the back of the pants and of the top. As I have explained in the intro, the person I'm sewing this swimsuit for is very, very hourglass and he's extremely narrow here. And I see that me being also quite hourglass, but not as much as her. I already have a bit of like flapping here and also on the back with the swimsuit. So I do want to add, I have cut a tiny bit of elastic and I'm just going to add this in the back to create a bit of tension. So instead of having the seam in the center back like it should be, I'll put it on one side, which means that I'm going to mark where is the other side, then going to mark where is the fold here, place my elastic at the top of the fold like this. I'm going to start from the center to make sure it's nice and aligned, and then stretch it a bit and sew it that way, stretch it a bit and sew it that way. I will show you once it's done because it's going to be clearer, but the theory I want you to understand is first put the seam on one of the side seam, mark the other side so you know where the side is, like a perfect middle, then place the center of your elastic. I'm showing you on the outside, but it needs to be on the inside, in the center of this piece, and from the center I stretch, and from the center I stretch. If you do it in one go, it is going to be wonky and you're going to have that ruching in the back a bit too much to the left or right, and that's not going to be a good look. So this is what I'm doing now, so a little bit of extra, but I think it's really going to help with the fit of this. Guys, this part is not for the faint of heart because basically you don't have any markings because you're in the middle of a piece. You
kind of have to keep even here. So if you see, if I fold it, it is in the right place, but I don't have any markings, and I'm just gonna sew and gently pull it. And now I just have to hope that the tension I'm going to put is going to be the same as I did on the first side. This part is a bit of believing and just trusting the process, really. So this is what it looks like. I'm obviously going to fold it into, and then that is going to be the inside and the outside is going to be without the ruching. Obviously, and I have thought about that but kind of accepted it, if I want it to be fully reversible, if she wears the wrong side, then this is going to be visible, but honestly I don't think that's too ugly, and I think that's fine. So that's a bit of ruching that's going to be in her back. I'm going to do the same for the second waistband. Okay, so now that I have done this extra step, I'm ready to catch up with you. I'm going to baste this like this so that it's easier to sew on the waist. So this is basted. Now I'm going to attach it like this to the waistband, stitch it, and then just a question of top stitching the waistband like this, and we will be done. This is literally the last step, guys. You very soon have a swimsuit ready to sew. I don't know if you see where the tip of my needle is, but it is no longer where it should be. Oopsie. And here we are. I am so happy with the finishing on my swimsuit, and I really encourage you to take your time, because these are the last little bits and they are going to be quite visible, you know. So look, if you make it really nice and regular, how pretty. So take your time with the top stitching, it's really worth it. So this is what the final swimsuit looks like. I've taken a ton of photos and videos. It's quite hard to tell because it's a dark color, and honestly, having done it really neatly, I do believe you can wear it inside out. As you can see, by having done the top stitching really on the edge, if I do this, nothing comes. The seam is really attached, and so you could totally wear it like this. And then you have literally a different swimsuit, and you have the little ruching in the back, which is going to keep it nice attached to your lower back. And that's it. I hope you have a new swimsuit and that you are super happy with it. Honestly, I really gave my all with the finishing for this swimsuit, and I think it's my best so far. I am so happy. The way it is absolutely wearable inside out, outside in, like it just looks so good. I'm super happy with how it looks. Like really, I finished it and I was so chuffed. I have already given it to my friend who was absolutely delighted. I think when you are a very hourglass figure, it's always a bit difficult, like especially bikinis, and she was really like, wow, it's the first time I have something that fits so well. She was super happy, so I was super happy. So I really hope that you are also pleased with your final swimsuit. If you have any questions about any of the steps, you can obviously leave me a comment and I'll do my best to help. I hope you have a beautiful swimsuit you're happy with. If you want to show it on the catwalk in our Discord channel, the link is in the description down below, and I'm sure everyone will happily clap for you. And if this video was useful in helping you to make your swimsuit, please consider giving me a big like and a subscribe. I would like to thank everyone who's tipped me a coffee recently. Really, to the bottom of my heart, it means a lot to know that you guys like the work I've been doing here. So thank you so much for all the coffees that have been tipped recently. Don't forget that you can make anything, including a swimsuit that's going to make you feel so good. I'll see you in the next one. Bye!